Hidden Figures, perhaps the most disinterested I've been in the Kerbal Space Program franchise so far. It's not that the movie's bad, it's actually fairly good. It's just that it doesn't have rockets exploding 24/7 like in the original game. Hidden Figures had a theatrical release in the ancient, mythical year that was 2016. It was dropped on December 25th, directly competing in the box office with Mr. Beast's We Are Number One, but Every One is a Bad Intro, which released a day prior. The battle was won by Hidden Figures because the producers had a budget of around $25 million dues to hire more than a single person. The masses gave it good reviews, although some critics didn't care for it because of historical inaccuracies. This praise was enough to earn them several nominations. Keyword nominations. The only award they won was an award for outstanding performance by a cast from the Screen Actors Guild. The movie is about Katherine Johnson and her two friends, Dorothy and Mary, as they struggle to gain status in NASA because it's Virginia in the 60s. America is paranoid because the Soviets launched Sputnik a year prior. This gives them the reasonable fear of having an electric eye looking down on them up there in space. This paranoia pushes NASA to step up their game and start to cook up some fancy new rockets before they get cooked by Soviet nuclear bombs from space. In light that there aren't any mathematicians to calculate the geometry of a rocket launch, they pick Katherine for the job after she's recommended by Dorothy. Meanwhile, Dorothy is denied the position of a supervisor as Mary is given the idea to become an engineer. Katherine arrives and is stared at and mistaken for a custodian for obvious reasons. After a talk with Al, my favorite scene in the movie happens. Katherine is handed a stack of papers by Paul Allen from American Psycho. She opens up the papers to check the math to see that Paul Allen blacked out the figures. Distraught, Katherine asks, "How am I supposed to complete my calculations with all these hidden figures?" An absolute Oscar-worthy scene. Fun fact, half the budget was dedicated to repairing the studio because director and co-writer Theodore Melly started a fire from writing this fire line. After a minute of being in the room, she has to pee, and there's a montage of her walking to the bathroom because it's Virginia in the 60s. She goes to the bathroom like 3 times total throughout the movie, I don't know, I didn't count, and I can't legally rewatch the movie without buying it, so I have an excuse not to know. I'll be honest, the montages are okay. It portrays how much time Katherine is wasting by showing far-out shots of her walking for a few minutes while the track Runnin' plays. If you graduated from your first year class of subliminal messaging, you'd notice the lyrics "Don't act like you was there when you wasn't" reminds the viewer that Katherine was in fact not able to do her job because she wasn't there. The day ends and the story takes us to church. Not much happens, but Colonel Johnson fails his Fallout speech check and gets his advances shut down because he didn't spec into Riz. At NASA, Katherine does math, which shocks the entire team because it's Virginia in the 60s. This gets her some respect because it shows she can do mathematics. Shocking truly. Mary isn't able to become an engineer because she needs to get a degree, and the only schools that she can go to for a degree are white-only schools. At home, there's a birthday party for someone's kid, I forgot whose, and at the party, Johnson is there, and this time he is actually successful and gets to dance for Katherine for a while. Stand and follow command, the blood for the homeland. Hear the mother's call, like for the storm. Moscow will never give in, there is no surrender. Force them into retreat and into defeat. Stand and follow command, the blood for the homeland. Hear the mother's call. World tension is elevated when my favorite Hearts of Iron nation, the Soviet Union, launches the first human into space. Because of this, NASA really has to step up their game if they want to succeed. They buy some computing machines, which Dorothy starts fixing when no one is around. Katherine goes to the bathroom, again, and gets soaked because she had to walk in the rain. This makes her boss, Al Harrison, rather upset because she isn't at her desk most of the time. When she comes back, she is questioned by Al as to why she's always gone. This culminates in a scene where she finally vents her frustrations to the entirety of the room. This scene is pretty good. The performance was convincing enough to make me feel secondhand embarrassment. This is a good thing because I imagine the scenario would be pretty embarrassing to be in, but I wouldn't know because I don't really talk to people. We cut to Mary's story, where she is trying to convince the court to let her take engineering classes at the high school. She manages to Saul Goodman her way into getting the classes, but only at night, however. Catherine is having trouble with her job because things keep constantly changing and she's not able to keep up with the updates because she is not allowed into meetings. Eventually, she gets into the meetings thanks to Al Harrison and does math on a chalkboard again, which gets her more respect. Meanwhile, Dorothy gets her and the rest of the computers reassigned to work on the IBMs so they don't lose their jobs at NASA. Very cool. Mary gets a mechanical pencil and Catherine gets married to Colonel Johnson. Very cool. Catherine also gets a conversation with Al where it is made clear she may not have a job soon thanks to IBMs. Not so cool. Launch day is here and America can't wait to see the first American man to be sent into space. Al discovers the computers gave 2 separate coordinates, 2 separate times, and wants to have them checked by a real person. Catherine eventually checks the math to see that the coordinates are in fact correct and the launch can go ahead. Skip forward a bit and we get to see Dorothy become a supervisor and a programmer, Mary become an engineer, and we are told through text that Catherine continued to work for NASA and even got to work on Apollo 11. My opinion on the movie is, it's good. I understand why people like it. I wasn't bored watching it, but I also wasn't on the edge of my seat, so I'd say the narrative was solid. The cinematography didn't subtract anything from the film, and it only served to help scenes. For example, remember this scene? The camera being zoomed out allows for the audience to see everyone in the room and help get a better understanding of how the people inside the room feel. To squeeze more mileage out of this scene, I will point out the fact that the sound is quiet after Catherine leaves, which helps drive in the emotion this scene has. The 2 elements of film I have left to review are editing and mise-en-scène. I was told that if you don't notice it while watching, then it is good, and that's the case here. The edits didn't feel jarring, and the visuals look what I imagine the 60s looked like, so I can't really say much. I liked how they used real footage from the 60s, like JFK's speech. It was a nice touch. To summarize, the movie was good. It didn't do anything bad, and it had some pretty good scenes. Overall, I'd personally give the movie 3.5 stars out of 5. I wouldn't go out of my way to rewatch it, but I'd be fine if someone put this on the watch. Review over. I have rockets to build now.